a time, in the prosperous town of Umudala, there lived a man named Maduabuchi Nori, known to everyone simply as Madu. Madu believed that a life not announced was a life not lived. He believed that when blessings were hidden, they lost their power. He loved to talk. He talked when he ate. He talked when he walked. He even talked when no one asked him anything. He would sit in the middle of the village square and speak loudly. I have 3 houses in the city. My business makes more money than rain. I will buy another car next month. People listened, some out of curiosity, some out of admiration, and some listened with hearts burning with envy. But Madu could not see the difference. His wife, Chiamaka, however, noticed everything. She saw the eyes that watched with jealousy. She heard the whispers when her husband walked past. She saw the greed hidden behind forced smiles. Quietly, she warned him, Madu, sharing your life with everyone is dangerous. Not all ears are friendly. Not all smiles wish you well. He laughed at her. My wife, you worry too much. I am untouchable. Who can harm a man protected by God? Chiamaka sighed. She loved him deeply, but she knew that pride was a disease that blindness carried. Madu had a younger brother named Obiora, a man whose heart was a bottomless pit of comparison. Everything Madu did, Obiora wanted. When Madu bought a new land, Obiora demanded to be involved. When Madu bought a car, Obiora insisted he should be allowed to drive it. When Madu opened a business, Obiora wished it would fail. Madu loved his brother blindly. He trusted him fully. He made Obiora his next of kin. Madu, Chiamaka said one evening, your brother smiles too quickly. He watches our home like a hawk watches prey. Madu waved her off. He is my blood. He will inherit everything if something happens to me. He laughed. Even though nothing ever will. But Chiamaka felt something heavy settle on her heart. She could not explain it. She could only feel it. Christmas arrived. Drums echoed in Umudala. Palm wine flowed. The sky smelled like roasted corn. Families traveled home in decorated cars. Madu packed gifts, money, new clothes, perfumes, toys, and even electronics to display. He told his mechanic. He told his tailor. He told strangers in a fuel station exactly. We will be traveling on the 23rd of December at 8 a.m., passing through the old forest highway. Chiamaka froze. Madu, why would you tell strangers the exact route? He laughed. What is the harm? People need to know that God is blessing me. Chiamaka's heart screamed, but her mouth stayed silent. The road to Umudala was long and lonely, bordered by tall forests and whispering wind. Their children slept in the back seat. Their gifts filled the trunk. Chiamaka kept praying silently. Halfway into the journey, a large truck suddenly blocked the road. Dark figures with guns stepped into view. Madu's heart stopped. The leader shouted, "Step out of the vehicle!" The children screamed. Chiamaka clung to them tightly. Madu trembled, unable to move. They were dragged into a waiting van, blindfolded, bound, silenced. When the blindfolds were removed, they were inside a dirty hut deep inside a forest camp. Madu was beaten. Chiamaka was threatened. The children cried until their voices dried. Every night, the kidnappers asked, "Who should we call for ransom?" Madu whispered numbers with shaking lips. He began to think about his wife's warnings, about the people he bragged to, about the strangers who smiled without sincerity. Chiamaka sat beside him in the darkness. "You are not alone," she whispered. Her voice held him together when his courage failed. He realized that his wife was not weak. She was his strength, his anchor, his wisdom. Madu's best friend, Ikenna, received the ransom call. He didn't panic. He contacted the police secretly. The next day, at the ransom drop location, the kidnapper stepped out of the bushes. When he pulled off his mask, Ikenna froze. It was Obiora, Madu's own brother. Obiora smirked as the officers surrounded him. "Madu shows off too much," he said coldly. "He thinks he is better than everyone. I deserve everything he owns." "You kidnapped your own brother?" an officer asked, shocked. Obiora replied without remorse, "If he disappears, I inherit everything." At that moment, Ikenna's heart broke. The police stormed the camp. Bullets sliced through the air. The kidnappers fled. Madu and his family were rescued, shaking, crying, exhausted, but alive. Madu held Chiamaka in his arms. "You saved me," he whispered. She smiled gently. "No, love saved us." After they returned home, Madu changed everything. He removed Obiora from his documents. Chiamaka became the new next of kin. Prison gates closed behind Obiora Nwori with a loud metallic finality, a sound that felt like the sky slamming shut. Clang. The noise echoed through his mind. For the first time in his life, he felt small, powerless, insignificant. The prison was crowded with men whose faces were hardened by pain, betrayal, and survival. Obiora looked around, trembling. He had imagined himself taking over Madu's wealth, not wearing a prison uniform that smelled like tears and rust. He sat in the corner of his cell and whispered to himself, "I should have been richer. I should have been the one people admired." But instead, he was here a criminal in chains, a man whose jealousy drove him to destroy his own blood. Madu and his family arrived in Umudala after their release. Every eye followed them. Some stared with sympathy, some stared with shock, but many stared with fascination, because gossip travels faster than truth. Women gathered near the village well. "I heard he brought kidnappers upon himself," one woman whispered. "He talks too much," another said. "He invited trouble." Men gathered under the palm trees. "If you boast too loudly, the wind will carry your secrets," an elder muttered. Madu heard every whisper, and for the first time in his life, he felt the weight of humiliation. Chiamaka held his hand and whispered, "Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom." He nodded, tears burning behind his eyes. A few days later, Madu sat outside his father's compound. The scent of burning firewood filled the air. Relatives came to greet him. "Welcome back," they said with forced smiles, touching the gifts he brought, trying to peep into his car, pretending they cared. He used to love attention. Now it felt like poison. Madu no longer bragged. He no longer announced. He answered every question with just one sentence: "I am grateful to be alive." Chiamaka began to notice the quiet transformation in her husband. He no longer took calls loudly. He now avoided gatherings where men compared wealth. He held her more gently. He listened more. Every night, he prayed with his family. He prayed for peace. He prayed for wisdom. He even prayed for Obiora, though betrayal still lived like a scar in his chest. One night, while their children slept, Madhu sat by Chiamaka's side. "I almost lost everything," he said quietly. She turned to him and touched his face. "You didn't lose everything. You found wisdom." He swallowed hard and nodded. Inside prison, Obiora began to see the reality of choices. He watched men cry in the night, haunted by families they destroyed. For the first time, guilt pierced him. He remembered Madhu's hands feeding him when he had nothing. He remembered Madhu paying his school fees. He remembered Madhu calling him brother with pride. And he remembered how he repaid that love with destruction. Obiora fell to his knees. He wept, not for prison, not for punishment. He wept because he finally understood that jealousy is a fire that burns the bearer first. Months passed. One morning, a prison guard handed Madhu a letter. The handwriting was shaky. "Madhu, I know my apology cannot erase what I did. I know I hurt you. I hurt Chiamaka. I hurt your children. I hurt myself too. Jealousy made me blind. You trusted me. You gave me everything. But I chose to betray you. I am sorry. Forgive me if you can. Obiora." Madhu read the letter over and over again. Anger rose first, then sadness, then a strange sense of peace. Chiamaka took the letter gently. "He is broken," she whispered. Madhu stared into the night sky. "I don't know if I can forgive him," he said softly. Chiamaka leaned on him. "Forgiveness is not a gift for him. It is freedom for you." Months later, Madhu stood outside the prison gates as Obiora was released. They faced each other. Two men, two brothers, two lives changed by betrayal. Obiora dropped to his knees and held Madhu's feet. "I am sorry," he whispered through tears. Madhu closed his eyes. The pain was still there, but behind the pain was love that had been wounded but not killed. He placed his hand on Obiora's shoulder. "I forgive you," Madhu said, "but forgiveness does not erase consequences." Obiora nodded. "I will spend my life earning your trust again." When Obiora returned from prison, the village did not welcome him with open arms. Children pointed at him. "That is the man who tried to kidnap his own brother." Mothers whispered warnings to their daughters. "Never marry a man whose heart is darker than his past." Men shook their heads. "Greed turns blood into poison. Look at what he did." Obiora felt the weight of every stare. He used to walk proudly, shoulders high, head lifted, ego inflated. Now, he walked with humility, head lowered, carrying the heavy shadow of his past. But for the first time in his life, he did not argue with fate. He accepted what he caused. He did not defend himself. He did not try to excuse his behavior. He simply said, "I deserve it." Madhu watched Obiora carefully. He had forgiven him. But forgiveness is not the same as trust. Obiora needed to rebuild what he destroyed. One morning, Madhu asked him, "Why did you do it? Was money more valuable than blood?" Obiora swallowed hard. "I did not hate you. I hated myself. Your success was a mirror that showed me my failures. I envied your light because I lived in darkness." Madhu was silent. Pain sat between them like a third person. Finally, he said, "Jealousy is a fire that burns the hand holding the match first." Obiora lowered his head. "I know that now." To test his change, Madhu gave Obiora a task. Not money, not property, responsibility. We are starting a new farm project. You will manage the workers. Obiora nodded. He arrived before sunrise. He worked harder than everyone. He stayed until everyone left. He no longer cared about being seen. He no longer craved admiration. Instead, he cared about doing right. The villagers noticed. One day, an elder approached Madhu. "Your brother is becoming a new man." Madhu nodded, feeling warmth rise in his chest. Change is real only when actions speak louder than apologies. Months passed. The farm blossomed. Crops grew tall and vibrant. The harvest was abundant. During the annual harvest festival, villagers gathered. Food, music, laughter. Obiora stepped forward and handed Madhu the first basket of produce. "For the family," he said. Madhu looked at him. Not with suspicion, not with resentment, but with gratitude. "You rebuilt what you broke," Madhu said softly. Obiora felt tears rise. Not from sadness, but from redemption. One evening, Madhu announced, "I am removing your name from my will permanently." Obiora felt the words hit him like a blow, but instead of anger, he nodded. "I no longer want what is yours. I only want to rebuild my honor." Madhu studied his face. For the first time, he saw sincerity free from greed. Chiamaka stepped forward and spoke gently. "Trust is not given, it is earned, and you have begun earning it." Obiora let out a slow breath. For the first time in his life, he felt lighter. Years later, Obiora became known throughout Umudala, not as the one who betrayed, but as the man who rebuilt himself. Madhu spoke less now. He no longer needed the world to validate him. He found peace in privacy, strength in family, and wisdom in silence. Obiora, once driven by envy, now protected his brother like a lion guards its young. Their bond was restored, but on new ground. Ground built on humility, loyalty, and truth. Moral lesson: some wounds do not heal by time. They heal by effort, by honesty, by consistent actions. Forgiveness frees the heart. Change frees the soul. And sometimes, the greatest battle we fight is not against others, but against the darkness inside ourselves.